Hello and welcome to India's World. Israel and Hamas are at war in the Gaza Strip once again. Hamas is firing rockets into Israel, and Israel has followed with airstrikes and a limited ground invasion of Gaza. The Gaza Strip is 146 square miles in area and is pretty densely populated with a total population of 1.6 million. It is separated from the other Palestinian population center, the West Bank. In fact, the two are at the opposite ends of Israel. They used to be governed by a single Palestinian authority from Ramallah in the West Bank. Now Gaza is administered by Hamas, while West Bank is administered by the more moderate Fatah. Hamas was, however, democratically elected. In the 2006 election, Hamas won by a slender majority. It took control of power in Gaza forcibly in 2007 when the defeated Fatah refused to step down. Since then, the movement of food, water, gas, electricity, and people to and from Gaza Strip is strictly regulated by Israel. In effect, Gaza Strip has been under Israeli blockade since 2007 when Hamas took over its administration. Israel and Hamas have fought three separate wars: in 2006, in 2008-09, and in 2012. Israel invaded Gaza in the first two cases, but only bombarded it in the third. The 2006 war was triggered by Hamas kidnapping a young Israeli soldier. The current crisis was similarly triggered by the kidnapping and murder in the West Bank of 3 Israeli students. They were apparently killed by men who Israel believes were Hamas operatives. The aim of all Israeli attacks on Hamas has been to prevent rocket attacks by Hamas. To discuss the objectives of the latest Israeli invasion of Gaza, we have with us a very distinguished panel of experts: Ambassador Kanwal Sibal, former Foreign Secretary of India, and by far one of the most cerebral diplomats in India; Professor A.K. Ramakrishnan, Chairman of West Asian Studies at Jawaharlal Nehru University; Dr. Awwad, he's the Chief of Bureau of Syrian Arab News Agency SANA in New Delhi and President of the Foreign Correspondents Club in the country. I welcome you gentlemen to this discussion. Ambassador Sibal, let me begin with you. Why did Israel launch a ground offensive and airstrikes in Gaza? Is it to destroy the capacity of Hamas to launch rockets at Israeli territory? Is it to destroy tunnels used by Hamas to bring in weapons and other material? Or is it to destroy Hamas?
I think they have clearly stated that the objective is to destroy Hamas because they see Hamas as the most dangerous enemy that Israel has. And they are not able fully to control Hamas's resources in terms of rockets and other inventive ways in which they are carrying on their struggle against Israeli occupation. They have been able to control the West Bank government, the Fatah people.
They're also more moderate.
They are more moderate because they are getting international support. They are dependent on international support. They will lose that support if they became more difficult in terms of dealing with Israel. So I don't know whether they are moderate because they feel that they have no other option if they want to survive, but to be moderate. Otherwise, Palestine will even lose even more in terms of its identity and its prospects for the future. And there are always in such struggles people who are more extreme, more violent, more determined to fight, and Hamas constitutes that element in the Palestinian struggle. And therefore, for Israel, they are the most dangerous enemy, and their objective is to try and destroy them, though I wonder whether they will be able to achieve this objective, because at the end of the day, there will always be a struggle against Israeli occupation.
Okay. Professor Ramakrishnan, does the Israeli military action in Gaza have a political objective? One doesn't get the impression it has any political objective because they're not asking for dismantling the rule of Hamas in Gaza.
It has a very important political underpinning, mainly the coming together of Fatah and Hamas.
They're closer together today than they've ever been.
Yes, that kind of unity being forged, even though there are problems with that. Then the whole question of the pressure for having some kind of peace, negotiations and arrangement coming forth from the Obama administration. The important objective politically then is to thwart both Palestinian unity on the one hand and the pressure towards having some form of peace process, coming forward. And thirdly, the thing is that there is a stalemate going on for quite a long time on the Palestinian front. And things are brewing up in the Gaza Strip and in the West Bank as well. So this kind of an attack that Israel wants to show to the Palestinians, that kind of anger will be dealt with militarily, very severe.
Dr. Awwad, Professor Ramakrishnan is saying that Israel doesn't want peace. One of the political goals, I mean, if that can be a legitimate political goal, is to thwart any peace attempts. Now, more Israeli soldiers have died in this invasion than in any other skirmish or war since 2006. Of course, many more Palestinians have died. So Israeli action in that sense is only limiting the capacity of Hamas to make it manageable.
Well, I don't think so. You see, because once you already seen that Israel attacked Hamas and attacked Gaza for the last 6 times, even after the withdrawal from 2006. They have not hid it out, whether they didn't wait somebody get killed, an excuse to come back. It is a fight against the Palestinian people. Hamas is just learned the art of resistance and asking for the freedom and the lifting of siege of the Palestinian. This is an open warehouse prison where it is besieged from the sky, from the ground, from the sea. You have no other option for these people to go. So where you want them to go? I mean, the rise of the right wing in the Israeli government, in the Israeli political arena, have already given ideas that this kind of government, which is run by Netanyahu, is not willing for any kind of peace and a compromise.
He opposed even withdrawal of
occupation. Absolutely. No, it doesn't talk of occupation. There is no Palestinian map on the map of the Israeli, for God's sake. They don't have even...
I was talking of Israeli withdrawal from Gaza Strip was opposed by Benjamin Netanyahu when he was in the opposition.
I'm not responding to your point. My point was, in general, I'm talking. The people, if you look at the map, they don't recognize even Palestinian. Palestine and the Palestinian people in Gaza are not Gazan people. Basically, they are expelled from different parts of Palestine, beside the Gazan people who have been taking shelter after they have taken their homes. So therefore, the right wing in the Israeli government have already called for even attacking like Hiroshima. Ariel Sharon's son was saying, let them clear, these are snakes, we should remove them from the earth. So the objective of the attack on Gaza, even for the government of Israel, does not know what to do, because it is the right wing in Netanyahu government who's dictating him the term. Some parts say you should invade, the other parts you should continue with the war on. The war will continue on as long as Ambassador said, as long as there is occupation. If they don't end the occupation and really sit down across the table to discuss seriously peace, there is no peace between the two countries.
Okay, all right. We're going to take this forward in terms of how it helps Israel or how it does not help Israel to have a continuous war. But in a bit, we need to take a break at this point. We'll be back again with this discussion after a short while. Don't go away. Welcome back. We're discussing the objectives of Israel in its Gaza invasion. Ambassador Sibal, there are Israeli strategic affairs experts who say that Israel's aim is only to make the security threats to its existence manageable, knowing fully well that they cannot be obliterated militarily.
Yes, I think this is a realistic appreciation of the situation. They withdrew from Gaza because it was too much of a burden to rule Gaza and provide for the administration and the well-being of the people to a minimum extent and perform the functions of the government. So they withdrew and leaving the Gazans to their own devices, but as was said, creating such a security wall around Gaza that the Gazans were living in some kind of an open-air prison. Now, yes, their objective would be to, first of all, send a clear message, which they have been sending repeatedly, but it doesn't seem to have had that kind of an effect on the ground, that if Israeli security is attacked, then the retaliation would be severe, and they will exact a huge amount of punishment. They will inflict a huge amount of punishment on Hamas. Okay. So they know they cannot eliminate Hamas because of the nature of the struggle that is going on, and therefore to reduce it to manageable proportions, that's right. But we've seen that they still are able to get rockets to fire on Israel, and even more advanced rockets with a greater range.
Israelis have a theory for that.
Despite everything, whether Iran is giving or anybody is giving, leave that aside.
Yeah.
The point is that so long as the situation remains what it is on the ground, and Israel is determined not to actually have a genuine peace process and meet the aspirations of the Palestinians, have a genuine two-state solution, which I don't think is going to happen. Okay. This struggle will continue, and all they can do, as you rightly said, is to reduce it to manageable proportions.
Let me take this to Professor Ramakrishnan. So do you think Israel has a long-term vision, a strategic vision for the occupied territories and for Gaza Strip? And if so, what is that vision?
Now for the Netanyahu government, it is to speak to the Palestinians through the barrel of the gun.
That's not a long-term vision.
It is not a long-term vision. The long-term vision is dependent upon the whole question of Israeli occupation of West Bank and Gaza. What happened after 1967? The political question of colonizing Palestine, occupying Palestine, attacking the occupied territories at different points of time, as you have mentioned. If that continues, what kind of a vision can emerge?
So you're saying there's no long-term vision?
There is no,
as of now.
Except continuing this kind of occupation.
So, Dr. Awwad, do you think this, what seems like Israeli blundering from one war to the other is actually part of a strategy? You find a term in Israeli strategic literature, which is, they call it mowing the grass. That you can't get rid of the grass, it's going to grow, but each time it grows, you mow it down. Okay, it's a sort of eerie sort of simile for killing people, but that's what, and this is what they used with the Arab neighbors in the 3 major wars they had with them. That they're never going to accept the existence of Israel voluntarily, they're never going to sign a peace treaty voluntarily. Mow the grass, make the situation manageable, and maybe then you can sign a treaty with them. So do you think this was the strategy with the Arab neighbors first? I'm not talking of Hamas just now.
Well, ever the existence of Israel, I mean, this is the situation. This is the crux of the problem, because you have here, you are taking a land with people, not that people without land, or a land without people, as they are saying. It's a people, indigenous people living in Palestine, and they have been living there. The 1948 division of Palestine was already planned by US and the UK, and the moment they have moved out of 1948, the 30,000 army of the Israeli Jewish people there, they attacked the Arab, and they took 67% of Palestine. And if you look at the 67 war of the Palestine, the remaining was captured in Gaza and West Bank. And followed by now the map, we are fighting for 12.5% of what remains of Palestine. If that is the main objective, they wanted to turn it into a Jewish state. Yes, you rightly said. There is an objective. First, annihilate Palestine. Then de-Arabanize Palestine. Then you can also push them out to Jordan, or let them later on even to Iraq. You can settle the Palestinians. They don't want a Palestinian state next to them by all means, because you already used the atrocity measures and all oppression method to take on them. I met Arafat. I asked Yasser Arafat, when I met him in Netanyahu in his first time, I said, what do you expect from Netanyahu? He couldn't answer me. I repeated the question 3 times for Yasser Arafat, and he made his hand like this and looked at me, nothing. Then I asked Mahmoud Abbas the same question when he came, and I interviewed him. I said, President Abbas, what do you expect from Netanyahu? He said, talk for talk. I said, why are you talking? If you do not solve the Palestinian issue, it's a Palestinian problem here. You have to end it up.
That really wasn't my question. Now, let me rephrase it and take it to Ambassador Sibal. See, at the end of the decisive victories through occasional military intervention, whether it was with Syria, Jordan, or Egypt, there was a political goal at the end of it. That was a peace treaty, and peace treaties were signed. But can you have a similar political aim, which you pursue through military means, with a militant group like Hamas?
I think Israel will not be able to achieve that goal so long as they pursue their present policies. Now, the Americans have tried to play a role recently. Secretary Kerry spent a lot of time, spent a lot of political capital, and it has come to naught. Before that, so many other attempts have been made. The Europeans have been involved in the peace process. Some stages the peace process seems to have achieved some results. But because the fundamental issue is so complicated, so difficult, both for the Israelis and the Palestinians. I can't see them agreeing to something which is equitable, because Israel is the strongest country. It is backed by United States and major powers. The Europeans have psychologically find it very difficult not to support Israel because of what happened in the past. So the balance will always be in favor of Israel. And since Israel follows very strong, very determined policies, using military means of all sorts to quell any form of resistance.
At the end of these military means, there is no peace treaty with Hamas.
No.
This
the
is
peace
not
treaty, I can't see how, on what basis they'll have a peace treaty unless Israel is willing to make concessions which they will not
make. It's only
make.
meant to punish.
I think they know that this is the only solution that they have for the present and for the near future. And the mowing the grass analogy which you gave seems to me to be fairly realistic appreciation of what the Israeli strategy is.
Do you agree, Professor? I'm sorry, I interrupted. Do you agree with Ambassador Sibal that this is mowing the grass really with Hamas also? It's a variant of what they did to the Arab neighbors, that Hamas is like grass, it's going to grow up. So periodically, you have to trim the lawn by killing them, knowing fully well they will consolidate again. After all, the rocket launches haven't gone down after 2006. They didn't go down after 2008, 2009. They didn't go down after 2012. They're unlikely to go down after 2014. Right. So it's a strategy of mowing the grass, making Hamas and Palestinian militancy manageable.
See, for Israel, the Israeli authorities think that the military option is the best option because the asymmetry between Israeli state and the Palestinian side, Hamas including, is such, it's a huge gap, as we know. Politically, that's not the case. And therefore, if the political option is exercised, Israel, it's not very easy for Israel. So it opts for the military option periodically.
It prefers it.
It prefers it periodically, not with a vision to end the political crisis. At the core of the Palestinian issue, it's a political issue.
Make it manageable.
Yes, it is the Israeli state continuing with its occupation and continuing with the traditional policies, but with an increased military might.
Okay, I need to take a break now. I'll come back to you, Dr. Awwad. We'll go on a short break just now. We'll be back in a bit. Don't go away. Welcome back. We are discussing the objectives of Israeli invasion of Gaza. Dr. Awwad, you wanted to say something before we went on the break.
Just to say, the policy of expansion has already been built up in the mindset of the Israeli people. Look at Moshe Dayan himself in his autobiography, which his daughter written. She said, we provoked the Syrian to take the Golan because the Golan give Israel 34% of its water to the Israelis. So therefore, to speak that they are only talk of security for Israel is not a security only. It is the measure of expansion of the Israeli state, which they have it in their map. It is from Euphrates to Nile. So this fall in the policy of the Israeli government on these issues, yes.
Well, the question I really wanted to ask you was, will this strategy of periodic attacks on Gaza make Israel any safer in the long run?
Absolutely not. See, Israel learned the art of wars. They learned the art of selling wars, but the Palestinians learned the art how to survive and resist. And the 2006 experience on Lebanon, it's already taught them a lesson, the Hezbollah and the other resistance forces. And the same thing they are repeating now in Gaza. The Gazan, the Hamas and the group fighting Israel have learned how to survive and how to beat the Israeli. Look at the amount of the killing happened.
So
how many soldiers?
No amount of killing will make
absolutely not. This is a perpetual wars for a continuous war in the region. These are violation, continue the war. So unless and until the international community really thinks seriously that this is the crisis created by the UN, we should solve it. There is no solution to this crisis.
Professor Ramakrishnan, so can Israel indulge in a perpetual war, a continuous war against the Palestinians, and without trying for a diplomatic solution, and hope to survive as a healthy democratic state?
You know, unfortunately, that is the kind of thinking that the Netanyahu kind of leadership. But why would
any government work with only a holding pattern? That, you know, crush somebody militarily, occupy them, don't allow them adequate food, electricity, gas, don't allow them jobs, education, etc. And that is a permanent solution. Can a sane state ever think of that?
In this case, if you take up any aspect of the politics of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, any one of them would be difficult for the Israeli government to touch upon. because it has tremendous consequences for domestic politics and so on. And therefore, what they want to do is, as was suggested earlier, continue the expansionist policy, continue the occupation, continue the post-67 colonization policy, and so on. And this will result in a situation where no politics is possible.
Okay.
And it is creating such a chaotic condition where we see the extreme form of repression on a set of people and so on. So the consequences are huge. The whole point is the international community has been talking about it. There is a worldwide recognition of the Palestinians' right to have an independent state.
Okay.
But there is no concrete plan to pressurize Israel to reduce its possibility of doing this kind of attack on a set of people.
All right. Let me ask you a slightly different question. Forget the international community. Let's see what experts on Israel are saying. I would like to quote an assessment of the Gaza invasion by Ariel Allen Roth, Executive Director of the Israel Institute. And I would like to know whether you agree with it. He says, and I quote, he says, Hamas has already won. It has shattered the necessary illusion for Israelis that a political stalemate with the Palestinians is cost-free for Israel. It has shown Israelis that even if the Palestinians cannot kill them, they can extract a heavy psychological price. It has also raised the profile of the Palestinian cause and reinforced the perception that the Palestinians are weak victims standing against a powerful aggressor. Down the road, that feeling is sure to be translated into pressure on Israel, perhaps by politicians and certainly by social movements whose objective is to isolate Israel politically and damage it through economic boycotts. In other words, the current Gaza invasion invites international pressure on Israel to concede more favorable terms to the Palestinians. Do you agree with this, or do you agree with others who say that buying time is a legitimate goal and Hamas stands isolated?
You know, there are, of course, sane and moderate voices in Israel, and this view that you have mentioned, I think, represents another point of view in Israel. But my own view is that Israel is relatively secure. Yes, psychologically they're under pressure. When a rocket is fired, it creates a psychological problem. People have to run to shelters and their normal life is disturbed. But actually, how many people have been killed? Very, very few. So Israel is well protected. Number two, big powers and the United States in the lead are fully committed to Israel's security. So they have a great protective ring around them globally. In the region, most Arab states either recognize Israel or do have underhand beneath the surface contacts with them. They are not targeting the existence of Israel. And ultimately, Israel has nuclear weapons. And they have found that they have succeeded over the years in their expansionist policy in the West Bank, and otherwise there's no pressure to move out of Golan or whatever else. Yes, they have some degree of a security problem, but not of the kind that will push them into making a radical departure from their existing policies. Insofar as world opinion is concerned, which world opinion are we talking about? Latin America, Africa, most of Asia. They are not bothered. Europe has problems, and America supports them. And in the Arab world, the views are divided because governments in Arab countries, key Arab countries, are not interested in challenging Israel.
Now, we've got only 2 minutes left, so I'm going to ask you a question related to India. I'll begin with you, and then I'll end with you. There are many in India who see Israeli action against what Israel calls terrorists as a model for India, that we should be like the Israelis. Why are we not like them? Go get them. Do you think there are any lessons for India in this situation in Gaza and how Israel deals with its terrorists?
Not along the lines that you have mentioned. The other way around, that legitimate political aspirations of people which are recognized by everybody, that has to be protected, and that has been consistently India's position. I don't know why we have been wavering on the question of debate in the parliament, but at least we have in the UN Human Rights Council has taken a a BRICS kind of position. But there is this wavering that we are
So you're
seeing.
basically saying we need not follow Israel. It would be wrong to follow Israel.
We should not.
All right.
We should not.
Dr. Awwad?
Well, I think there are tendency among the young generation, whether in the United States, whether it's in the West, whether in India, also they are also supportive and sympathizer to the Palestinian cause. And I have seen even yesterday in the US, there is a tendency among the people that there's a paradigm shift.
My question
no,
is,
I'm coming
there
back
is a
to
section of people in India, a political view in India that we should follow Israel's model. So
I am coming to you because this is very important. There are people in India who are trying to explain that this is, yes, we should follow. That is the wrong things of following. Killing of innocent, having the privilege of gun does not give you the right to kill people. What you should address the issue, address the cause of the issues. That is the point I'm raising. In India, you cannot follow. Where is the champion of human rights where they were calling for right to protections against Syria and in Syria and in the United Nations, even among the American and the Indian themselves
don't get polemical. I'm not on that. Let me take this.
Indians are very clear in their mind. They know the cause. Mahatma Gandhi said it himself. It is wrong to impose the Jewish on the Arabs.
How should India deal with its terrorists?
Certainly not following the Israeli example. I'm totally against that because it's a spiral which moves upwards, violence against violence. I think we've been very sensible. We've not used our armed forces, our heavy weaponry, our air force. It's not a war for us in that sense when it comes to terrorism in Kashmir promoted by Pakistan. Even we have not taken these measures against a state which has supported terrorism in India like Pakistan because we are concerned about the consequences and the escalation problem. So I think those who are advocating the Israeli type of means to deal with terrorism are absolutely on the wrong track. Yes, we should be a little more forceful in dealing with our problem, but not follow the Israeli model.
Forceful or political?
No, forceful in terms of protecting our borders better and some form of retaliation, limited retaliation against Pakistan. If it comes out clearly that they have supported another measure.
Now you're diluting yourself.
No, I'm not diluting myself. I'm talking about domestic terrorism. Here, Israel is occupying a territory in which there are people who are fighting against Israel. And if you make a parallel, let's say, with Kashmir, if the Kashmiris feel that we are occupying them, but I don't think we should deal with our Kashmiris in the same way.
We've run out of time. I'd like to thank all my guests, Ambassador Sibal, Professor Ramakrishnan, Dr. Awwad, for coming here and discussing this issue. That's all we have for you today. We'll be back again next week with another interesting issue. Till then, goodbye, and thanks for watching.